So the monthly reward card for May was Protector of the Main, as we all know. And like everybody else, I kind of wanted to take it for a spin, see how it performed. And so at the start of this month, I have been playing Control Monk and trying to, I'm not going to say like center the build on Protector of the Main, but at least find what I felt like was the appropriate way to fit it into Control Monk. When the card was revealed and I released my video talking about it, I kind of talked about some of the pros and cons of the card and why I felt like it would ultimately be like a flex spot in the list. Essentially what I've done is I have kind of revamped the train of thought around the old versions of Control Monk, and I've tried to create a more reactive list as opposed to proactive. So if you're familiar with Turquoise Link, fantastic top legend player, he popularized a version of Control Monk that he called Proactive Control Monk, and for good reason. It played a large number of large bodies, and those big bodies would help him control the board, specifically the field lane, so that you could Dawn's Wrath the Shadow Lane at will and put pressure on your opponent at all times. So that deck was very, very strong at the time because the meta had slowed down. There was a lot of slow oriented decks, a lot of control decks, and one of the ways that you beat control is you just outgreed them. If you've got more big bodies than they can handle, you will eventually win. So running things like the Eradicator, running things like Wild Beastcaller, Black Knight, that really helped that strategy. But lately, at least for me, the metagame has kind of devolved into mid-range decks, and I've been seeing a ton of Control Mage lately. Now, I think that Control Monk is typically in a good spot against Control Mage because of what I had just previously said, right? If you can outgreed a control deck, you'll typically be fine. And I think that even without the Eradicators and so on and so forth, Control Monk is positioned well enough to kind of win that fight. It's not going to be every game, mind you, but I think it's got a favorable win rate in that scenario. But the mid-range part was a problem because a lot of times if you try to combat them with just big bodies, they either just go around you, they go through you, or over top of you, whatever the case may be, and it can struggle. So by going with a more reactive list, and I say reactive, it's not like we've completely blown the list out of the water, but it is a little bit more defensive. I think I've got it in a spot that I like it. So I've been playing it a bit. I've had some pretty solid success with the list. I've played against a lot of mages so far this season, but overall I like it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the list, and I'll kind of walk through the differences between this and the Proactive Control Monk. So this is the list that I'm currently using, and if you do a quick skim of the list, I'm sure that there are some cards that stand out as obvious additions, like Protector of the Main, and you'll notice some cards that are obviously gone, in most part because I just mentioned that they're gone, right? So I removed some of the just large bodies that were taking up space that were intended to use their superior stats for trading. The Eradicator, right, is no longer in this list. Wild Beastcaller, again, it's across two bodies, but was kind of designed to just be that quality set of stats on the board. That's gone, and it might come as a surprise to some, but I have removed Black Dragon as well, and I'm not running Ungolem. So that one's an interesting decision. Most people consider him to be like an auto-include, but this is now the second agility-based deck I've removed him from for different reasons. I don't play him in Charger, so if you've ever seen that list, just because he doesn't synergize well and I think he's too slow. And the truth is I'm really not playing him in here because we don't run a lot of the like card draw that you would want to hit Ungolem in this deck, right? When you think about it, you're playing like Thieves Guild Recruit because you want a discounted, high cost card. You want your 8s, your 9s, your 10s. Same thing with Eclipse Baroness. When you play Eclipse Baroness, you really don't want that to get you an Ungolem. Like, it's already kind of frustrating when that ends up getting me an Execute or something, and you're not oftentimes guaranteed to even get your Assassins, and in this kind of a deck, just playing the vanilla 1/1 probably isn't the greatest play. But really it just comes down to the card draw that we do have. It kind of muddies the water for the targets that you want to hit with it, and I don't think that it's enough or consistent enough to guarantee that I'm going to hit an assassin. We're not playing like Altar of Despair, we're not playing Chanter, so there's no guaranteed interactions with Ungolem, so he honestly just didn't make the cut for me. So by taking those cards out, you know, it's not just those cards, but by taking the cards that I have removed out, we've made some room for some new includes. So the first, again, the most obvious, is Protector of the Main. It was our monthly reward card for the month of May, and he's another body with guard. He has the potential for life gain. He combos very nicely with Rumor Profiteer. And he's honestly been, I think, better than I thought he would be initially, at least so far in practice. Against control, you don't honestly need to play him on curve, so the fact that he's a 4/4 that dies to Lightning Bolt isn't as big of a deal as I originally thought, because unless you're way behind, you typically don't have to just play him. You can wait and combo him with a Bruma and push him out, and kind of pick your timing, pick your battles with that. And against aggro, a lot of times even the 4/4 is like enough to, you know, force them to respond, which can slow them down. So he's been better than expected. Now, something that gives him a little bit of help is I'm still playing Knight of the Hour. So when Protector of the Main was first revealed, I had kind of argued that you might have to cut Knight of the Hour to fit him in because they're fighting for that 5-drop slot. Ultimately, I'm running both. With all the mid-range decks floating around, having another creature with Prophecy is kind of a big deal. The 3/3 body isn't ideal, but it's oftentimes big enough. And the health gain is huge. Having proactive health gain, meaning that like I play it and I immediately get it, can sometimes be a big benefit as opposed to having to wait for the drain. And it's just nice with Protector of the Main. You can play him, and if they try to go around him, hit you in the face, sometimes you get the trigger and pump your other guy up. If Protector lives, you can play him, get the health gain from Knight of the Hour, pumps up your Protector, and then get the swing in for the drain, so on and so forth. But I am running Knight of the Hour, so he has come back into the list with Protector of the Main in mind. I'm running Crushing Blow in a full set. This list, outside of your point removal, so when I say that I mean Piercing Javelin, or your big sweeps like Dawn's Wrath, outside of that, it doesn't have a great way to deal with Supreme Atromancer. And those have been creeping up a bit, more and more. Control Mages had been cutting them for a bit, but I've played against a couple that were sneaking it back in. It's certainly being played in the mid-range Mage variant. It's certainly being played in the Assassin lists, so you have to have a plan for it. Crushing Blow is part of that plan. It's obviously not ideal, you still have to deal with the 5/3s, but it can sometimes just be enough to buy you the time that you need. So it's also great for killing pesky things hanging out in the Shadow Lane. Another card that's been seeing a lot of play as of late, and I know I'm guilty of it because it's really good, is Murkwater Shaman. Crushing Blow takes care of that for you. I've seen a lot more Mighty Allies recently in the like mid-range warrior lists. Crushing Blow takes care of that. So I think we're in a meta right now where the 3 damage is good enough to warrant making sure that Crushing Blow is included. So Knight of the Hour I'm putting back in, Crushing Blow, Protector of the Main. And so the reason that I would describe this list as being more reactive than proactive is all of the things that I just listed are not about me like fighting for control of the board by putting big bodies out and attacking and then using that momentum to put pressure on my opponent, but they're usually responses, right? They're guards I'm putting in front of your guys. Their point removal I'm using in response to my enemy's creatures. So that's why I would consider this to be more of a reactive control monk than a proactive. The rest of it is pretty standard control monk. If you're new and you're not familiar with the list, the idea is that you stall the early game with cheap creatures and things with lethal help a ton. So Fighters Guild Recruit is great, Astrid is great. You kind of like the health gain, but if you need to, don't feel bad about using Bruma Profiteer to buy you time as well in the early game, and also Execute, not a creature, but totally effective. When you get to that mid game, it can really go a long way if you can catch some prophecies that go, in your favor. So things like Cloudrest Illusionist, Brotherhood Slayer, obviously Piercing Javelin, and Knight of the Hour. Those 4 are great at maybe giving you that tempo swing to help you stabilize in the mid game. And then when you get to the late game, you've just got a package of answers. Dawn's Wrath is fantastic, Manticora is fantastic, and you've still got Odahviing at the top end for your big sweeper. And if you start to run out of gas or you need card draw, then you have Eclipse Baroness, and so on and so forth. So that's typically how you would play Control Monk. You're trying to, stall and fight for board control early, not attack your opponent. Just buy yourself time because that you're going to have more late game threats than your opponent. If you get them at a discount, say from like Thieves Guild Recruit, even better. But that's pretty much how you play it. So as always, I'm going to leave you with some footage of me playing this deck on stream. Again, I've been having more fun than I thought I would with playing it, so hopefully you guys enjoy it too. As always, I love you guys. Thanks for watching the video. Until next time, may you walk on warm sands. We'll probably fumble around a bit as I learn the deck, but man, it does look like a ton of fun. I like throwing the prophecies back, but given that we don't have the ring, I think it's really important that we have something really. So I think that we actually keep the Slayer. Well, now I don't wish we would, but... Monk Mirror. Yes, Swoter. Myself and Lateralis are going to co-stream.
Just give me a name.
If I fall, the Hist will.
The Night Mother will guide us.
A Somerset Orrery would be my card. Like, I know I could Crushing Blow this, but if I'm being entirely honest, like, just taking a contract feels like a win. To me, anyway.
It's nothing personal.
I mean, if it was an Execute, sure, but I also really like the reach this provides.
For the Black Hat.
Yeah, I know. They've been kind of promoting the whole Bethesda land thing for a bit.
What have we here?
Let's see what this gets us. Love that discount. And yeah, see, that's why you hold on to the Crushing Blow. If it costed cheap, in all honesty, probably still not, at least in my opinion. My very, very, very first episode of the Forge ever, I suggested a way to rework it that I thought would have been pretty favorable. I don't want to commit too much, but I still want to be aggressive. Let's go with that for now. So the thing that I wanted it to do is I wanted it to, instead of like just sending all your prophecy cards back, I wanted it to say draw one card and then choose a card in your hand and put it on top of your deck. I think that's worth the 6 cost, and it lets you hand and library manipulate, and it lets you play the bluff game, all of which I think are very, very fun and interesting features that are missing from the game right now.
Shadow.
Anasi finds it useful to use her enemy's strength against them.
I am still waiting on confirmation, Swoder, from Scapes. I asked him, he said he would find out.
Shadow.
So I do not 100% know yet, Swoder. Worst case scenario, if he says no, you can always just open it in another browser and mute it, like I plan to do, but... like Second Sight from Eternal, or like some similar like brainstorm mechanics for Magic, but yes.
It's nothing personal.
Given the quality of our hand, I almost feel like Manticora is correct here. Does give him a juicy Dawn's Wrath, but then he still eats 6 more. So yeah.
Khajiit is done.
Hey! Trying to play catch up on some messages that people sent me about some decks. Oh look, it's Mage. Actually, that's not bad against Mage. Just because that's good in either or. So many mages though. Sure.
What have we here?
Oh, I was really hoping for something sweet and discounted.
The ambition of the Telvanni knows no bounds.
Oh, I guess these were all deleted comments, huh? And just somebody saying thanks. Fair enough. All right. This is interesting, and not what I was expecting.
My scales move in shadow.
Let's do that. Was not expecting to see Telvanni. Makes me think it's control, though.
A little distraction
Fine.
might prove useful.
Fine, I probably should have swung last turn too. I guess I should just get him to the cusp. I doubt that I need to save the buffer for the drain on Protector of the Main. I mean, at this point we probably are going to be like more of the beatdown player in this scenario, so... It's looking like Control Mage, though. Some Control Mages do run Telvanni just because it is a form of card advantage. If you don't silence it, even if it's not a reliable card, it's still a card. There's something to be said about the unpredictability. I mean, we did lose a game earlier tonight because of somebody getting Unstoppable Rage. And it's one of those, like, how do you plan against Unstoppable Rage in a Mage deck, you know? So the big thing, Sappington, is that it doesn't have very good... It doesn't have very good wide removal. Like, you have to rely on Dawn's Wrath. And then, unlike Control Monk, you don't have access to the early lethal creatures, and you don't have access to Thieves Guild Recruit and Baroness for discounts. But then even above and beyond the discounts... Baroness is kind of the big deal. Baroness means you can draw cards, right? So Spell Sword, except for basically taking it in the face, they don't really have a way to draw
Maybe
cards. So when you get the control mirror match, Control Mage can abuse Fate Weavers and Elusive Schemers. Monk can abuse Baroness, and Spellsword can abuse nothing really, right? So
My scales move in shadow.
I mean, if I put Baroness here, he could Dawn's Wrath, but I think that's probably
Let's go then.
fine
My
to try to
time
draw
is
that out.
precious.
Of course I get my third fucking Execute as my discount card. Yeah, he's playing Control Mage, so he's of course going to play the long game. But that's honestly it, Sappington. The presence of Histgrove isn't enough. It's not reliable enough, and it just isn't enough to like push it over the top.
What have we here?
I mean, I know he's just going to execute this because he got one back, but at least that forces it out. So I guess there's that. Like, we're gonna have to deal with the execute eventually, so he's not gonna use it on these. So the only other targets, period, realistically, are gonna be this or Fighters Guild, and at that point, like, we just have to make him use it. Dark Harvester, that's not a good sign. That means he's likely running Desperate Conjurings.
My scales move in shadow.
These streets are mine.
So that's kind of rough. Coming from Hearthstone, you're really confused about when people do or do not attack face. So that's a fair question, and it's not, unfortunately, got like a necessarily easy answer. So for example, I'm in a control mirror match, right? If I attack this rune and he gets a prophecy, I have no way to respond, so I pass. If I still had Magicka left and I felt confident I could respond, then I might consider attacking. It also depends on the kind of deck you're playing, though. So I'm taking the conservative approach because I'm playing a greedy control deck. If you're playing a tempo deck, very often you try to push through the runes anyway, but you still want to sequence your attacks so that you can swing, see what the result is, and then take actions accordingly. You usually want to avoid putting yourself in a scenario where you're cracking a rune when you've got no attacks left and no Magicka left, because then whatever happens, happens and you can't respond. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't come up, especially if you're playing aggressive decks. But that's usually what you try to avoid.
It has been written.
Henchkey, much appreciated, thank you. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I'm probably slaughtering it.
A little distraction might prove useful.
Alright, so Cloudrest probably coming with an execute combo. So, I mean, it's a really nuanced thing and it takes some time to get used to. That and lane placement, so understanding field lane versus shadow lane. So, like, one of the things that people as new players will often miss is they think that the shadow lane, because it has cover, is a great way to go when you want to be aggressive. and that is actually not necessarily the case. The shadow lane is actually more of a defender's lane, because if you put something there, then I get priority in choosing what to attack, so I can take favorable trades. You're essentially sacrificing health for favorable trades, but the shadow lane is typically considered the defender's lane, and keeping control of the field lane is very important as a result. So again, it's one of those like weird nuanced things, but it's really important. Alright, so we're going to do this because I want that execute. We're going to take this trade. Because this could also eat this, we're going to go ahead and take that as well. This can come here because it doesn't crack a rune. I don't think we invest the Brumas because Ice Storm wipes our board and we don't want to give them more free ones, so then we pass. So, catching up. Random heroes, much appreciated as always. And for Henchkey, extra great to hear. I love it when people love the YouTube content because it eats up a lot of my time.
Brotherhood is a pox.
And I'm not always on time. Like, it's been a bit since I posted something. But that's just a strict byproduct of I work 2 jobs and I have a family. So right now we've got a lot of Magicka. We got a lot of cards that we can respond with. And as such, we're going to go on offense. We're gonna make this trade first. So here's another thing, right? I was about to attack here, but that's gonna give him 2 runes, right? And if either one of them is like removal or a guard, he could plop them here and prevent this from trading. And since we know we want to make this trade regardless, we're gonna make this first before we swing. Now we can go ahead and swing. And sure enough, we hit prophecies.
By our service, we honor kind.
So now we have to decide whether we want Oda or Manticora. And I feel like Odahviing is the play. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It doesn't get us like a big swing, but it requires an answer. And it doesn't die to Ice Storm on its own. Like, this requires hard removal. So we're going to go ahead and just Oda for right now. Also, thanks, Primed. So Oda does not clear this, but at this point he would have to hit us and give us a rune, so I'm okay with that. The reason we played Oda as opposed to our Manticora is typically in a control mirror that's Manticora based, you want to be the second person to Manticora. Because if you think about it, right, we both have 3. If he plays his first and I play mine second, and then he plays his and I play mine, I'm going to come out at the end a Manticora up, which then means he has to have a way to deal with it. In the control mirror, whoever can apply pressure with other cards and save your big threats to be the second response, you actually usually win. So that's why we took that path. Interesting enough, I honestly think we put this in hand. I'm really not that worried about this 5-1. So I think we're going to put this in hand. I dropped the thing that I was fidgeting with. So we could have done it for free and that's fine, but since Oda can trade into this anyway and still survive, and Mage at 5 health would still require 2 cards to get rid of it with direct damage alone, I think the Javelin is a waste in that scenario. Alright, so we know we're going to go ahead and do that. At 22, I could swing with this and take him to 16, which is the cusp of breaking runes. We're just going to go ahead and do that as well. Get it out of the way. So now our choices are we could Javelin this, then trade here. We could Manticora this, then trade here. We could trade here and Manticora, so on and so forth. So the reason I'm leaning toward Javelin and swinging is because if we Manticora'd, we're giving him a quality Dawn's Wrath. So Dawn's Wrath blows up an entire lane. We don't want him to take out 2 with 1. So in this instance, I think it's just Javelin here because it's the guard we wanted out of the way. Not the best Javelin target. I mean, ideally we'd much rather use an Execute, but we're all out. But we're going to go ahead and punch him in the face. We do expect him to hit prophecies because we're going through 2 runes. In fact, it wouldn't shock me if both end up being prophecies. But now
there's always a plan. There's a plan. There's always
we're gonna load it up.
Challenge Khajiit.
So the reason we did what we just did now is that Dawn's Wrath here doesn't help him a whole lot. He could play Ice Storm, but even if he swung with here and played Ice Storm, he would still need yet another card to deal with this. At this point, we want to we're threatening lethal, right? So we want to give him a lot of targets that he has to spend a lot of resources on. If he has to spend like 3 cards to recover, we're golden, because we have a quality threat and removal, and we have Baroness, who is a big threat as well, and will also put cards like in our hand, right? It gives us more gas. So because he's doing that, I fully expect Ice Storm. Thanks, CB. And then we can just get the victory, right? So we can Manticora his guard. We can give him the old good game. And then this skips the last rune, so we don't have to worry about prophecy. So again, trying to save the Manticoras is usually wise because, as I was saying before, in the mirror, usually whoever draws more late game and whoever plays theirs second is gonna win typically. Alright, we're going first against Warrior. Rank 1 Warrior. So he's probably playing Orcs. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's not likely that somebody's already ground their way up to rank 1 by playing like a passive ramp deck, so
Luck to your house.
I guess we will
Azora,
see.
give me strength.
I guess we will see. I would really like to play Orcs. I really should just go craft the Warriors. Or Headhunters, because that's what I'm missing. Ooh! That might be relevant later. Discount Odaving.
The longer the odds, the sweeter the victory.
My scales move in shadow.
If I fall,
Let's go with that. This still dies to Shardbound Orc. Not much I can do about that.
you get one shot. Make it good. Too late.
Hey, Test. Thanks, is that Lakai or Ikai? I can't tell if that's a lowercase L or what. So much like we predicted, the Shard, I don't know why, I always call it Shardbound, and it's Stone Shard. I call it Shardbound because I've been playing Shardbound on Steam lately. So I think it's just on my mind. It's an L? Alright. Well, thank you, Lakai.
If I fall,
So
Just
I
give
think
me an
that's the plan of action. The good news is we actually haven't taken damage yet. I think that favors us. But the bad news is we're not like gaining traction on controlling the board, so. But he's definitely on mid-range orcs, much like I'd predicted. We do have a couple of late game sweeps if we can make it that far, though this guy is going to be a problem. So here's another thing that people potentially fall into as a trap as a new player. The reason you take this trade, there's no reason you don't take that trade when you're the opposing player. I know that in your head you're secretly thinking like, well, I'm not going to attack for him, but let's just say you don't attack and I trade. Same result. But by not attacking, he's allowed me to do this,
Distraction might prove useful.
chaos take you.
which is like extra bad. Right? Because now I get to keep a dude, clear that side, play something that threatens. Like, that was... It's an easy trap to fall into as a new player. There are legitimate times where just not attacking is correct, but when you know that you're playing against, like, Cloud Rest, or similar effects, curses, yada yada.
I am a child of darkness.
I would love Breakthrough
Behold my power.
and Drain.
Chaos take you.
Anasi finds it useful to use her enemy's strength against them.
So we take that there just because if he did have like Unstoppable Rage, he could have like got a fair amount of damage in and done some things.
Won't escape alive.
We also, by putting it here, we're forcing in the lane stack, which is playing right into our plan.
Shot. Make it good.
We're gonna Dawn's Wrath that and not even blink.
Chaos take you.
But we're gonna swing first, and the reason we swing first is because if we hit a Prophecy and he decides to put another guy there, it's just one more thing that we're gonna proactively kill with Dawn's Wrath. So here's the Prophecy.
Close ranks. Let nothing through.
Alright, so he put the guy here, but he's still buffed here. So either way, we get some extra value from the Wrath just by choosing to attack first. So he clears, but at this point he's just got his lonely guy. And we've got a fistful of cards. So we're looking like we're in a good spot. We're going to go ahead and protect her on this side and Astrid over here. We'll save this because this is reach and removal. And Astrid can trade even with this and give us a contract. Not that we need it because we're hitting the end game, but...
Honor and blood.
The void awaits you.
We'll take that. Trade first, again, because we don't want a Prophecy to deny it from us. And...
Just
go
give me
ahead
an
on the field lane. Controlling the field lane is really important, so... And he's gonna need something to contest this, so having an extra creature there isn't the end of the world. So this is kind of a problem just because it makes our out-of-ing less impactful. But we can still get value out of it, so...
Your storm is
gonna go ahead and Oda. This will give us a contract again.
The void awaits you.
Takes him to 16. The only reason we're okay with playing Oda pre-breaking this rune is because unless he runs Mummify, there's no prophecies that punish our Oda
For the
Ving.
main.
And if he runs Mummify, then, like, as far as I'm concerned, he fucking earned it.
Close ranks. Let nothing through.
Because the combination of these two is enough to threaten lethal, I'm gonna go ahead and blow my contracts and do this. I could also just save the Crushing Blow and went for lethal, but it also means that this is less likely to chew through that as well. So there's a lot of reasons.
This was a worthy contest.
It has been an engaging hunt.
The void awaits you.
Uh-oh. That's a Prophecy
Should be good.
with guard, but it's not.
Yo, Torshul!